Hey, spend a little time with me today as we meet one of our awesome community members, Rudy Mahara. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. Really happy to be here with you today with something a little bit different. We've done a few of these in the past, but I'm going to make this a regular thing. Some very special episodes that we've had before we're meeting some of our community members and learning what things they're going through and the different ways that they've tackled some of the obstacles in their way. And I got to spend some time with Rudy here a week or two ago here in Florida. And I said, hey, man, this is too much fun. Let's go on the podcast and let's just take this to the next level. He said he'd be very happy to do that. It is very early in the morning today. So if you hear us doing a little of these things, that's what we're doing. But everyone, please welcome Rudy Mahara. Hey, Rudy, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Yeah, you have to forgive me. I was up late playing at Q Arena last night. So I'm a little tired.
Well,
no, joking. That was.
It's great to have you. It's great to have you here. We one of the things that we like to do first when we have an interview like this is we like to hear a little bit about your history with the guitar. We all come at this a little bit different ways. So, how did you get started with the guitar?
Well, it was interesting. One of my first memories was of like in sixth grade. I was sitting outside. I was in the show choir, and I was waiting for my parents to pick me up. And I saw a guitar pick on the sidewalk. I'm like, that's kind of cool. So I picked up a guitar pick. Years before that, I had this little toy guitar that you push a button and it makes noise. Well, my dad sold it at a garage sale, and I was angry and grievous that he did. I had no idea where that was. Turns out there was this budding love of guitar I didn't know existed. But the funny story was I was in seventh grade, and I was in a piano class. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing with the piano class was, it's piano, right? But they had a guitar in the corner. I kept looking at it. I went over and picked it up and was tinkering around with it. And the teacher recognized that I was so bad at piano that she said if I dedicated my time to guitar instead of piano, she'd still give me the same credit. And so I'm learning how to do cross buns and Amazing Grace and that was sort of the catalyst. And right around that same time, you went to church as a kid, and junior high, senior high youth groups were leading worship, being a part of that. And I was watching some of those guys doing that, and I just said, I want to do that someday. Like I want to be able to be an instrument, no pun intended. But I want to do that. I want to be that kind of person and leader. I think I'd have a skill at it. And so I really learned to be able to play and be part of that context. And then I just fell in love with the instrument. I just became a fan of, the Les Paul arch tops. I became a fan of the Dreadnought acoustics. I just started to know all this weird knowledge, and that's kind of where I got to where I'm at today, which is not where I want to be. But Lee, you're helping me get closer, so thank you.
Oh, that's great. How about Gretsch guitars? I've noticed you've been playing some Gretsch guitars.
I've been playing some Gretsch. So yeah, part of Gretsch was me an effort to get a cleaner tone, because the band I'm in, we are Randera Music. That's Randara. We do acoustic covers, and I wanted cleaner tones. Mm-hmm. And so by playing, I went to a Telecaster for a while. Yeah. Most of what we do is on acoustic guitar, but I really want to try to get into electric. But then I also got kind of tired with the cliches, if you will, with the, it's either Fender or Gibson, and that's the only two guitars. And so some of the features on my Gretches I really enjoyed, but I keep coming back to the Les Paul. I got my eyes on one now, so I'm trying to resist. Could
you let everyone know a little bit about maybe where in the world you're you're from.
Where in the world am I?
This ties into Carmen Sandiego. This ties into what we're just talking about here with the guitars.
Well, it's funny because anytime I'm talking to musicians, especially if I'm at a conference and they ask where I'm from, I said, you know where Sweetwater Sound is? And they have no idea what Sweetwater Sound is. And most musicians do, but I live literally 10 minutes away from Sweetwater Sound here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. If any of you can ever get a chance to come out and see it, it really is a beautiful campus. The showroom, first time I saw the new showroom, I just sat there and just like, it was beautiful. Tears were just, and it's open to the public. They have a 2-story, just tears coming down. It was so beautiful. Well, it was funny because they were in an old one, and when they built the building they're in right now, and one of the guitars I'll get into over here, I bought from Sweetwater 20 years ago when they were off in kind of a country road. Mm-hmm. So when they moved to this new facility, they had this, it was a nice showroom. It was large, but they, one of the big extensions, they were building this big one. It has, an acoustic guitar room. It's like a humidifier, giant humidifier with every acoustic version you can have in there. And then you go next door and there's 2 bays worth of electric guitars, and they got everything. It's some boutique brands that, I've not really heard of. But what's really interesting too is they have this aisle of guitar pedals that are open, and you walk up and you pick up a couple, and then you can go into one of their 3 or 4 guitar demo rooms, which have amps. You just put them down and you connect them, and you can just jam out for a while with no one else having to listen to you stink. So anyway, I'm home from Sweetwater Sound. My son takes lessons there. Know a lot of the people, and they didn't pay me to say that, by the way.
Yeah.
So
well, I've been for years. I'm like, man, I'm going to go to one of those Gear Fest, those big things that they have, and then you let me in on a little news that not having them anymore. It's virtual.
Well, they're doing it virtually. COVID sort of put a stop to that, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Sweetwater. I don't work for Sweetwater, but I. Kind of like if you're in Florida, Orlando, like you work for Disney, right? Like, nah.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
Fort Wayne, I don't work.
Give them money. That's all.
I just give them money. Same thing. Sweetwater, they got them money.
Yeah.
But they don't do the Gear Fest anymore. And for those of you who don't know what it was almost like NAMM, but it was in Fort Wayne, and they put tents up, and Gibson would have an entire circus tent, and you could walk in. Yeah. One of my favorite memories was Marshall. I've never played. I mean, I'm not that good of a guitar player, in my opinion. I've never played like a stack. Well, they had a Marshall like double stack.
Oh, you've never played. Oh.
And they look at me and they say, hey, I'm like looking at it. Well, that's pretty neat. Says, you want to play it? I'm like, oh, sir, I don't. I'm not worthy. Like, I'm not worthy. Don't make me do that. They said, no, go ahead and try it. I'm like, okay. And I get on and I play what little licks I knew, and it was thrilling. It was thrilling. I've never done that before, but they don't do that anymore. It's online. There's a lot of giveaways and stuff, but I'll let you know if
maybe they'll bring it back one day. Maybe
we can hope.
We can. But having you say you were interested in something different from Strats and Les Pauls is nothing for you. Go down there and you've got every guitar under the sun right there, 10 minutes away from your house. Mm-hmm. Dangerous. That's a dangerous thing for me. It would be very dangerous. So
my wife hates it when I'm the one who takes my son to trumpet lessons at Sweetwater. She's wondering where you're going to spend today.
Well, okay, let's talk about your guitar playing now. So you had the piano lessons. The teacher said, "Can you play Far Away on the Hill?" And you said, "Yes, I can. I'll play that guitar over there." Right. That's what my grandfather said. He said, "Oh, you're playing guitar. You know how to play Far Away on a Hill?" And it took me a minute. I'm like, "No, I don't know that." I got it. Grandfather jokes. But you playing in church, and then also having your band outside of church was what you always had a focus for your guitar playing. You weren't just learning guitar. You were learning guitar to do something there. So. Share with us a few of, let's go from beginner to intermediate when you really started to be able to play something where people were listening to you. What was some of the struggles that you had in the beginning?
Well, when I started, I really actually didn't start playing in a band. It wasn't worship. or church until about 5 years ago. My sister and I, we started Randera. And so up until then it was all, and I would just tinker at home. When I started, I remember distinctly getting my first guitar. It was my parents bought me this little Epiphone, the $200 entry level Epiphones.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting down. I named him Moses, just because I thought it was fun at the time. And I'm sitting here playing, and I'm learning. And I took lessons from our youth pastor, who was an incredible guitarist. And I had a lot of guys in my life who were guitar guys. But I remember distinctly, I finally hit the G chord. When you hit the 2, you get the the 2 on top and the bass notes. And I hit it. And when you're starting to play, you play every string to make sure it's not buzzing. And I'm telling you, Lee, when I finally hit the notes and none of them buzzed, I didn't want to move my hand because I got it. And I probably sat there for 30 minutes just up and down listening to the notes, that childish joy that comes from like, hey, I've done something and it's kind of cool. And I can actually hit a piece of metal wire that translates something audibly out into the world. To me it sounds super dumb, but I just sat there and I would just play that chord over and over and over. And that was really the start of, I think, just loving actually doing it. Mm-hmm. I then started to play in just some of the worship team stuff. I was glad there was context to do that. One of my most embarrassing moments, though, was I was at a church, a little youth group. I mean, it was a big church, but the youth group was small. But when they finally invited me to play in front of the adults, like the big people, and I get up there, and it was kind of a big deal because I'm like a junior higher, or like freshman in high school. It doesn't happen. I get up there, and my guitar strap, I had bought this Carlo Robelli behind me, so it's another $300-400 guitar,
right?
But the guitar strap did that thing where it tucks under, and so when I put it on, it just dropped in front of like 300 people, and the sound it made, and I'm just sitting back there just red. So I learned about strap locks and those little rubber things you can put on, but
Girl
that was sort of the start. Yeah, I mean that was it. And I just loved it. I think most guitar players, and when you look at people who are great at what they do, I'm an Indiana guy, so I'm not a huge Tom Brady fan, but one of the things I respect about him was that he loved the work. Like, he loved watching film. He loved the work. And so what you saw on Sundays out of great players was not, that's hours and hours upon work that they also love doing. Everybody wants to be in front of people and play guitar, but do you really love the work? And as you know, with my practice schedule, it's hit or miss on whether I love the work or not. It's could practice more, but
well, let's hear a little bit about your band.
My band is like family to me, and it's interesting. One of them actually is family. It all started when I was in Boston at a conference with my dad, and we went to this kind of dive bar-ish place, and they had like lobster tail for $5 a piece, and so we're here like feasting on lobster. And they had this guy who was running tracks, and he was playing guitar sort of not great, and then he was singing really not great, and people were still clapping, and he was getting paid. And I thought, if that guy can do it, I can throw something together that doesn't suck, And then my sister sings; she's an incredible singer. And so I'm like, well, we could probably throw something together that doesn't suck. So, this guy's making money. And now if you are on this podcast and you're watching it, you inspired me. Very sorry that I threw you under the bus, but you are, you mean something to me. Thank you. But that was it. So I came home, and my sister was pregnant. It was a high-risk pregnancy. And I pitched the idea. I said, hey, what would you say to making music together and doing something with this? And I think with Landslide, we started out with Landslide, a little bit of Adele, and just kind of tinkered around. And it was interesting because while she was at the hospital, she's a type 1 diabetic. And so all the stuff that goes on with having babies, and she was, I think, in the hospital 6 weeks on bed rest. And so I got her a guitar because she doesn't play guitar during that just cheap little Epiphone like what I had. She did not take to it at all, and so she just sings, but she's incredible. And that was it. We just sort of just started, singing and playing together. We're pretty good at finding harmonies. And my father owns a beer, wine, cigar shop here in Fort Wayne, right across from the Parkview Field where our minor league ball team plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Dad, would you pay us to play? And he said, well, I don't know how good you are if you can keep a crowd, but tell you what, I think I bought $1,000. I bought some speakers. I bought a little soundboard and stuff just to get us going. And Dad basically paid us to reimburse us for that over a few gigs. Right. And so, we started there, and we realized pretty quick we needed percussion because Katie can't keep a beat, and I'm doing so much already. So I brought in my best friend. His name's actually James Taylor.
James Taylor. Nice.
Not the James Taylor, but he's a James Taylor. And we started off, he had a little suitcase drum where like he actually took an old suitcase and put a head on it and the kick on the back. And so, and he looked like such a vagabond. It was so funny. We've gotten a little bit better since then because we needed more volume. But, and then lastly, we added a friend of mine from where I was working at the time. She was sort of new to town. Her name's Megan. And I heard she played violin and fiddle. I'm like, wait a second, back up. What? And she said, yeah, I play fiddle. And said, have you played with anybody? And I want you to meet my sister. And at the time, we're like really weird about like, we don't want to ruin the dynamics of things. And now 4 or 5 years later, they're my closest friends. Awesome. We've been through a lot of hard times together. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing when you can make music with people you love. But really, it does come down to life. I mean, life, you do life together. None of us want to go to Nashville. I mean, we'd love to go to Nashville. So if Bluebird Cafe's out there wanting some Fort Wayne talent, I'm not going to say no. But we're doing it because we love it. And we love each other. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So.
What kind of stuff do you do? Any original stuff, or is it all cover stuff, or what style of music do you?
Most of it's acoustic covers, but we found we just do acoustic covers of everything. And when I say everything, it's kind of a challenge, especially early on, to try to do songs that were acoustic and make them acoustic. For example, we threw some Lizzo in there, which was a little bit interesting. Some of the Jonas Brothers made it. We did Billie Eilish is like. I mean, it's kind of all over the map. But what my vision was for it initially was I want to have, I love the piano bar, dueling piano thing. My thought was, man, can we be good enough to like where the piano bar meets the campfire? Like, can you just, and there we go. Apparently.
I was hoping it was going to happen.
It was not.
So whenever Rudy and I are online, usually it's thumbs ups. These
try it again.
Yeah. Nope. Didn't. Yeah. Oh, there. So
we're back in Disney, man.
There's something going on with fireworks just went off behind Rudy in the screen. Yeah. So there's some sort of automated thing that we can't put our finger on why it's happening. But so if you're watching online, you just got a good fireworks show. So as you're playing in the band, and as your skills start to grow, did you have any stumbling blocks? Do you have anything that you were just as long as you worked on it, it just didn't seem to get better, or you couldn't get past it?
No, Lee, I'm perfect.
Well, I interview over. Thank you, Rudy. It was great to see you.
No, it was interesting. It's an interesting question because what we do as a band and what people love to hear us do, again, piano bar, campfire, we just want to have fun with a crowd. We really work hard to be fun and engaging, not just you're going to listen to my songs and I have the microphone, you shut up. We try to be engaging. But one of the things that happened with that, one of my biggest struggles was all I ever learned and got to do was chords. Like, acoustic rhythm guitar. That's what I did. And I love it. I've been doing it for 25 some years. But another guitar guy was like, he worked cruise lines and he said, once you do like once you've played Freebird enough times, like you try to find ways to make it interesting. Like it's just,
Yes.
and so you think of the hours that we've been playing in front of people and together in practice, and I just get very bored. I don't have, we have a bass player we're bringing on, and there's some other, but I don't have a lot of chance to like explore other guitar things. So I have to basically force myself to do that. And that's where really meeting you was a huge part of it. Is I'm not going to get to do it inherently in my band because my band needs me to do a certain role. Right. And I couldn't for a long time. I cannot get out of that minor pentatonic form. Yeah. And all the YouTube videos, and anybody watching this who's probably come to you because they've gone through all these other YouTube videos, is the frustration is everybody says, well, it's 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 1-3, and the root notes here, and I'm like, yeah, I get all that. I know where the notes are on the top two strings, but what do I do? How do I be musical? Like, how do I make something that is in here? And I got very tired of instructors or YouTube videos where it's just, we'll do this, and then we'll see you next week. You're going to pay me money, and we'll just try a different. It's like, and so what I really appreciate about your format and what I regret that I haven't been practicing, as I admit that to you and everybody, but that coaching,
you and everybody else the past 2 months.
Yeah, right. Everybody else the past 2 months is that coaching element where, hey, we're kind of on this journey together, and where are you at? And and by the way, audience, Lee is not paying me to say nice things about him. But I do think that depends how many of you sign up for stuff. But what's very interesting was your desire and ability to learn how I learn, and then pair that into well, if I'm a very visual sort of learner, so the analytic notes and intervals, like I can do that. But when I think of the minor pentatonic, I think of the shape boxes. And I look at the root, and I know that the root can go forward and backward, and what shapes come off of that. And so that's what I've been practicing. And where we are now, and Lee and I in our work together, is okay. Well, let's nail that. Let's be very good at that, and then add in the different jazz notes and the different things, which I haven't gotten to yet. And the sad thing, Lee, is I don't know if I'll ever have a chance or a need to perform that live. I just enjoy doing it. Like,
what happens is it's once you start to open up the fretboard, you're using this isn't technically correct, but the front of your brain, your consciousness. You're expending a lot of energy trying to remember things and figuring out how things work, and so that's the stage that you're in. We're learning these things. We're learning. What's really okay. So let me back up. So Rudy came to me in a different way than most of you who are listening. So Rudy came to me through Instagram, through probably a clip that I put up of one of the podcasts on Instagram. And that's been, these clips that we put on Facebook and Instagram are going to really more people than the podcast episode, which is the first, I've been doing this for 5 to 6 years. And we grow in different ways. And this was an unexpected way. So Rudy came to me and says, hey, I like what you did, but I'm not sure this is going to work, but let's see what happens. And what I love about the coaching is I have worksheets in a standard coaching form that I go to. And to the student, usually by the third time we meet, it's a custom plan. So we get into the best ways that you learn. We also get into bad practices and trying to, I try to aim you in a certain direction. I kind of wave and I go, come this way. Don't go down the dirt roads, stay on the highway. Let's move forward. And so around the third time we met, I started realizing, okay, when I do something with shapes, you're on it. But as soon as we start to get into practice this over and over again, there are certain things that you responded to, certain other ones we did. So I stopped. I took some time. Actually wrote kind of a cool little course. That's a kind of a Rudy course that may turn into something at the time. But using this kind of visual idea of getting these good music theory things, the little the ear candy, right? That comes in, and being able to visually see those there and have that be the kind of the centerpiece of it instead of the thing you practice later. Then things started going quickly at that point, right? So where you were kind of down about some things and all this stuff, that now when I would see you, it's like, let's go, let's get started, let's do this stuff. So but the point, back to the beginning of this point, is that right now you're putting a lot of energy into remembering these things and doing that. But at some point they're going to become automatic. They're going to become old hat. And then when you're at your gigs and you're playing these songs with these 3 chords that you've played for the past 10 years, right? Your brain is going to be free to get creative. And that's when the mixture, and you all see these players that they'll play chords and they'll play a little bit of some lead stuff. They'll play little fills in between the chords, embellishments, all of those things. And those can take your playing to a different place. And if you've got musicians who are listening, you're going to influence what they play. And then we've all seen those bands that start off the song and it's the regular song, and by the end of it, it's someplace, hey, where did that come from, right? And so these are the tools that we're trying to learn and it will sneak into your playing. I know for me, when I do something new and I put that into my routine, and then I learn it, and then I move on to something else, almost 3 weeks later, I start to see it in my playing. It's like it went into the soup in my head, and it jumbled around in there, and then comes back out 3 weeks later. So you're in the process of doing that, and I'm curious to hear how your guitar playing starts to affect the direction of the band.
Well, and you're right, and I'd heard that actually before too. This idea where when you're performing your live, you want to get it right, but you don't want to take a risk.
Right.
That is going to make you look dumb. Like, you just kind of, and so there comes a point where you're practicing at home, and every time you practice, it becomes less risky because you're comfortable with where that goes. And so those chord embellishments, for me to be able to play, we do wagon wheel, and we do it in A, so I'm capoed it too. Mm-hmm. Well, to be able to play that minor pentatonic embellishment inside of that and not sound stupid, or to roll it up and play that next, lick. What would be the second form? I mean, you're running up, and so you just kind of, it becomes less risky the more you practice to actually try it out live. And so for all you analytical people out there, the risk analysis practice helps mitigate risk. I've also found too, so that's one thing. The second thing I'd say is us as guitar players know what sounds good and what we know what we're shooting for. But do you have any idea how little the audience cares?
Right.
It's ridiculous. We were playing a gig and I was doing Run Run Rudolph. So it's Chuck Berry, and it's like, and I play, and everybody's like, wow, that was really, so I got the intro nailed. But then I start doing this solo and I'm trying to loop it because I don't have anybody I'm looping it, and the loop's not exactly right, but I get on there and I just scream some of the notes, and I'm just finding my place. And I end it, I'm like, man, that sucked. Like, that was awful. And my band, who I trust, looks over at me and is like, Rudy, I didn't know you had that in you. I'm like, I'm glad I got you fooled. The audience probably thought it was pretty. And sure enough, I get off the stage and everybody's like, man, that was awesome. Good job. What kind of guitar you play? What gear? And I'm like, I'm just happy that I fooled everybody, because that was awful.
Well, one thing that you and I have in common is we're both people persons, right? We love people. We love meeting people. We love performing and those things. I think we talked about this past week. I'm more comfortable in front of large groups of people. Smaller groups of people, I get a little less comfortable. And one thing, if you wanted to know how you're doing, all you have to do is stop looking at your feet and your pedals and look up. And if you want to know how things are going, if you want to know how a lick's working, if people pay attention to it or not, just take a look at them. I think I shared my pool player stories. How,
Yeah.
Well,
share that again. Yeah.
So in my band, I'd work on new songs or new licks or new something like that. And you know, you never know what you're doing well. And I found a really good test if what you're doing is going over to an audience, and that is the people who come into the bar to play pool. So when you go in to play pool, the first thing you do is you go to the jukebox and you put all your favorite songs in there because you want to listen to your music. And then as the band comes in and they set up, and you see these horrible looks from the pool players over at the band, because they know what's going to happen. Right. They're gonna pull the plug on the jukebox when it's time for you to come. So you better be, so you have an adversarial relationship with those people from the minute you walk into the place.
Before you threw up the first chord, you already got adversarial relationship.
So in my 3-piece where I'm singing and doing all the lead guitar and all the rhythm guitar, my eyes are glued on the pool players in the back. If I can win them over, I've won the room over there. So any tricks like that for dealing with the room full of people?
You know, and this is something we've had to have conversation with as a band, because I think we like the idea of playing a high-paying gig and entertaining, and people are amazed at what we're doing. And I think that's every sort of musician's performance dream. But I think as a musician, you also have to know if you're being paid, you're being paid to do something specific. So a work party, if someone's having a work party, they don't want you there to be they want background music. They're going to be talking, they're going to be working, they're going to be all those kind of things. And so knowing your role, you don't want to start hamming up, all right, everybody, we're going to do Sweet Caroline. Let me hear bop, bop, bop. Like, if that's not what you're being paid for. So it really becomes, you're employed by somebody else and make them happy, which is interesting in all kinds of different situations. So if I go to a wedding and we're doing a wedding, my focus is the bride, and I want her to be happy. So even if we get somebody who we like to have people come up and play songs, like if it's they're welcome to come up and sing the song, we'll play behind them, or I'll throw the karaoke out, we'll do something like that. But I always check with the bride first, because you don't want that song to be the breakup song from a previous relationship and all that. So there is that business element of like, all right, who's paying me and why is it important? When you go to a bar, you think about it, a bar is not paying you because you're a great musician. They're paying you because their hope is that people hang around and like what you do long enough to buy more food and more drinks. And if you can sell more beer, more drinks, more food, you're going to help the bar win. So I almost go to the bars and say, hey, I'm here to throw a good time. I want people to hang around. I know what you're trying to do. And so that's where when we play at bars, we try to go out in the audience. And my sister's really good at hamming it up, walking out, getting people to sing stuff or sit with people. And I kind of locked into a microphone. I can't. So I think that's the big thing. But yeah, those moments when you you hit something, or, that old guy comes up and starts asking about your gear as if, I have a $600 Gretsch. It's not like I'm like, I don't know. It's not like it. But he's like, oh, that's such a beautiful instrument I had. Like, well, I'm so glad that you appreciate what I've been spending 25 years to put out here for you. Because I think that's where magic starts to happen. People can connect over music that they can't connect necessarily in a lot of other ways. And that helps.
Well, we've got work today, so I'm not going to keep Rudy for hours and hours and hours and hours. We have family stuff to do too. So
we could talk for hours and hours and hours. Yeah,
well, we did. We have been last week. We were. Yep. But what I would ask for you to kind of wrap things up here is, would you? What's one thing that you found that you think that members of the audience could, like, a takeaway from your journey with the guitar? What's one either a trick or something that you've noticed that you think would be really helpful to some people?
Probably the most expensive lesson I've learned is that new gear doesn't make you better. Right. If you're looking at new gear, and I live by Sweetwater, so I got my eye on every kind of everything you can imagine. New gear is not going to make you better. And that's a hard truth. What's going to make you better is sitting down with what you have and playing it. I've also learned there's an element of my practice where I need to grind. And it's funny because, people tell you when you want to rest and recuperate and refresh, rejuvenate, do something you love. I love playing guitar, but I also hate playing guitar because when I sit and play guitar to practice, it's work. I'm challenging
Right.
myself on stuff I don't know. But Lee, you mentioned it. Like, all right, have some time where you're going to grind out the hard stuff, and then have some
Yeah.
jam time. Put a loop track on and have fun with, or play the same, Led Zeppelin licks you've been playing forever. Like go make guitar fun, but also challenge yourself there as well. And so that's, I think from a purely guitar technical standpoint, that's one thing. The last thing I would say is something I've really enjoyed is the goals that I shoot for are to me kind of relational. I love my band. I love the people. I love who they are. I love that we get to do that together. And so when I practice, I'm trying to work to bring fresh things to us, and they're a good feedback mechanism for me. And the worship teams that I play with, we did a worship retreat this last weekend, men's retreat, and it's interesting because I have all these high hopes to be this really great lead guitar player. But what was so powerful was me just up there with a guitar, doing what we do, and don't underestimate the power of just doing what you do and what you love to do.
And songs,
songs, because those songs mean so much to people, and it may not mean enough to you. Turn the Page, Bob Seger, good song. I like the song, but we get asked to do that song all the time, and I'm like, guys, it's kind of a downer. Like, why? We want an upbeat vibe, You want to do okay, but so we play what they want to play, and the place loves it, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, but it means something to you, and I'm kind of here for you. I'm not here for me to, I go home and play all the music I want to play. I'm here because you're paying me to have a good memory, a good experience for an evening. So one of the neat things is actually
I'm leaving all that in, by the way, plus the thumbs up that
stuff.
I'm leaving all the cuts in the. Here he goes. He's grabbing his guitar. What do you got?
That's it. I think it's interesting that when you play guitar or you love something, things mean you carry those mementos with you. And this guitar it was a Carlo Robelli made out of New York. I'm not sure if y'all can hear or not. What I love about this guitar was it's the first guitar I bought and used my own money on. But what was the interesting part about it was I joined the Army a week after 9/11. And part of that story was I was thinking about joining the National Guard or something before. And then 9/11 happened, senior year of high school. It's like, I don't want to go. I actually have to go somewhere. And as I kind of thought and prayed through, I said, if there's ever a time my country needed a soldier in my lifetime, this is probably it.
Right.
And so I said, okay, we're gonna do it. So I bought this guitar in high school, 20 some years ago, and this is the one I dropped in front of the church, so you can see the repair done on the pickup. There, they had to repair that. But what was really interesting about it was when I deployed to Iraq, my dad, I asked him if he would mail it to me, and he did. And it delivered it. And what was so interesting about it was it's not something you typically take into a war.
Yeah.
And when we were in Iraq, it was before there was really a ground invasion. So we were January of 2003, and Bush is still saying, let us in or else. And we're infantry, and
you're already
guess that's us. So, and I was a grenade, gunner. I was not but it was interesting that this guitar was able to be mailed to me. I call him Sarge. And what was so precious about it was, not only me being able to play it and have it, I was able to lead worship on the bass, and awesome. It was even on NBC Nightly News. Tom Brokaw had. It wasn't about me; it was just Foxhole Faith and something. And it was interesting because my parents were at home, and I told them to watch. Tuesday nights. It's going to be on someday. Well, they watching it, and it's the music, and they pan up, and they can see my name tape in this guitar on national television. And moreover, when we finally went north into Iraq, you're sitting around a foxhole. You're sitting around a position and doing chapel. Everybody knows a little bit of guitar. Right. Everybody knows how to do a ditty. And it became such a outlet in a very, very hard time for people to be able to just connect with a ditty and so forth. So this guitar is really in the marketplace worth absolutely nothing. I think I bought it for $300. It's got the dreadnought cutaway design that I like, but it means a lot. There's probably still some Iraq dust on it. And then what's interesting is this guitar got kind of warped when I was over there. So obviously I'm a 19-year-old soldier with all this money jangling in my pocket, and I needed to buy a real guitar.
Get you another guitar. Right.
So I bought that Tech Mini when I got home, and I've had that. It's been my primary workhorse guitar for acoustic guitar for 20. Yeah, it was 20 years last November is when I bought it from Sweetwater. So Greg Baum, Martin recognizes him as like one of the top 5 most knowledgeable people on Martin guitars. He works the sales floor. Like you can go in and just talk to this guy. So anyway, sorry, I got long-winded, but I think it's interesting when you love something and it means something to your heart and people see it and they love it too. I mean, music and instruments, it connects you in a way that other things just don't. And I want to be good at it. I want to be good enough at it where people can enjoy it more. And that's kind of why I love getting better and try to work hard to not suck. So,
well, thank you for sharing that about the guitar today. That was awesome. We've got someone, a national television famous guitar on the show today. That's awesome, man. That's great. Yeah, I think we all have one of those special guitars, that may not be the most expensive. It may not be, but means something to you or helps you through a time. Sometimes all you have is the guitar, so.
Feels like an old John Denver song,
Yeah. Let's make one. Let's make a new John.
This old guitar brought me my lovely lady. I sing too, but that's not nearly as good as my guitar playing. So,
how's your singing and playing?
It's gotten a lot better.
Last question. How's your singing and playing going?
Singing has gotten a lot better. I think when you do it so long, I think you just start getting, again, like guitar, you get bored of opening your mouth and singing. And so you try to find different ways to structure and get different sounds. And so I've kind of found a different sound. I love Need to Breathe. They're one of my favorite bands. And the way Bear sings, that kind of growl, raspy, Steven Tyler, Rob Thomas kind of inspirations behind how I think I want to sing. And so try to emulate that. Problem is it gets a little sore after 2 hours in a smoky bar. Yeah. So you got to be careful. So
awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, Rudy. This was a lot of fun. I don't want to keep you from work, and I'm sure the family's ready to go. They're like, where's Rudy? Where's Daddy? Where's he doing?
Dad? Your audience doesn't know this, but it's morning and they're ready to get on the bus, and
they're ready. They're okay. Well, thanks again, man. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys out there enjoyed spending time with Rudy as much as I do. So.
Thank you, Lee. I very much appreciate you. You're gifted at what you do, and you've been a huge help to me, both musically and personally. So I do appreciate you. I want your listeners to hear that. This guy's a solid dude, and he hasn't paid me anything yet to say that. So
yet. Yeah. Right. All right. Okay. Well, thanks, Rudy. And we're going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining Rudy and I today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below, subscribe to the show. And if you have benefited from this episode today, please leave a favorable Apple Podcasts iTunes review. It's the best way to make sure we get this very valuable content to people in Sri Lanka and different countries all around the world. And if more help, structure, and results in your guitar playing sound good to you, what are you waiting for? Play Guitar Academy is here. Come on over and hang out with us. Become a member. We have every first Monday of each month, we have a master class that we spend time, and I've got stuff prepared for you. And then every Wednesday of every week, we have a Q&A. It's a lot of fun. We're growing our group from week to week, and we'd love to see you in there. And I'm going to say thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.